A great Canadian once said, looking, looking for revenge. That's what the BYU Cougars are going to be doing in this game as they get their chance to get their revenge from an early season loss where at the hands of the Houston Cougars, I don't have to even check the score because I think I remember Houston won by 80 points, I felt like. I think it was more like 30, but at home, Houston was able to beat them by 30 points. But this is a completely different BYU team. A BYU team that, if you go to the good old trusty Torvik and you sort this game, you sort these two teams from February 1st, this is the fourth best team in the country in Houston versus the eighth best team in the country in BYU. And I think that's very indicative, maybe not even giving BYU enough credit for how good they have been in the semifinals with the chance to go to the Big 12 championship game. Subi, I'll throw it over to you first to get your first thoughts out there on what is looking to shaping up to be a really incredible matchup.
No, I'm so happy you started it off with a rap reference. And also, by the way, I saw you rubbing your hands like Birdman looking at this game because that's what I'm doing. I'm just like showing up to the glass, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, feed me.
this is going to be an amazing, amazing game. Your classic contrasting styles, offense versus defense. So let's get into the game itself and where I think either of these teams can make hay. BYU, right? We think about Houston as this huge, tough, physical team, which usually equates to how well they do on the boards, and they are. Make no mistake about it, they are. But BYU can actually hang with them on the glass, and I expect the Cougars. I gotta throw that out the window. I expect BYU to hang on the glass. And it needs to be their best rebounding game of the entire season, no doubt about it. And I'm talking all hands on deck. That's Keita and Traore, who was tremendous in the previous game. We need all the front court guys. We might even need guards crashing the glass from those million perimeter shots that BYU is going to take. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how BYU brings their hard hat because we're enamored with them and they're lovely, amazing offense. We are enamored with them, rightfully so. But this is going to take a level of grittiness and toughness that I do think that they can match, and especially on the glass. Additionally, valuing possessions is going to be critical for BYU. We know they generate a decent amount off of offensive rebounds, or at least I've seen that in the last couple of weeks. But valuing the possessions, the hectic hands are going to be coming from Houston. Passing lanes are going to be jumped. You're probably going to get picked up the second you get to half court, and it's going to be LJ Cryer and all those other dogs just being released on you. Value the possessions for BYU. And I mentioned sort of everyone needs to step up, all hands on deck. Cannot have a no show from Yegor Demon, which is what he had last game. He wasn't particularly good. I think Kevin Young saw that the offense was flowing with all these other dudes around and they didn't really miss a beat. But Yegor Demon, here's what I'll say, Cart. You cannot have more turnovers than points against
Right.
Houston. So those are some of the keys I'm looking for in terms of a team approach on the glass, taking care of the basketball, and then personnel wise as well.
Yeah, and look, we on a lot of these recaps and like previews that we do, um, more so the previews. It's very easy to go back and be like, what happened in the first matchup, or like what happened if these two teams played twice. I think this might be a rare case though, where like I'm actually throwing out the first matchup because BYU is that different of a team. This team is physical now. This team is offensively made up differently than they were when they first played. And they're a team that at any time you could blink and they've hit 12 threes. Like that's exactly what they're good. The shot diet is good. They're very good at getting to their spots. Now, on the other side of them, they're going to be looking at a team that prides themselves on not letting teams get to their spots. Subi, I wish I could remember. I want to hope that you remember this off the top of your head. When was the last time Houston lost in regulation?
I was second game of the season in November
In
against Auburn.
November in the against the number one or number two team in the country. Got it. This is gonna take. Obviously, I'm not gonna play the whole like BYU has to play a perfect game. that's tough to ask a team to play a perfect game. And you're asking teams to play perfect games when they're like, if BYU's good enough to put their best foot forward and put their best effort forward, and they could win a game with that because I think they're that good of a basketball team. But they are gonna have, like you said, they're gonna have to value the basketball as a team. You're gonna have to value the basketball as a team, and you're gonna have to rebound and rebound at a high clip. And look, I hope that a game this physical is let be played physical. I think actually Big 12 refs do a good job of that. As a Big 10 fan, I can't get over some of the refereeing that we get in our conference. But um, outside of, I guess, the rebounding and the taking care of the basketball, what do you think, more so on the Houston side, what do you think they need to do to, one, negate BYU, but also score enough points themselves to stay with BYU? Because you're not going to hold BYU to like 50 points or 60 points. They're going to get to a certain amount, and you got to be able to score that amount. So what do you look for in Houston in this one?
Yeah, so I think from an offensive perspective, I think what they need to do is establish their presence down low. I wouldn't want to get in a 3-point battle with BYU. I wouldn't want to try and get the tempo going. Although BYU is not like a super fast team by any stretch,
Mm.
they just hit a bunch of threes. But I think you want to establish the paint, right? Get JoJo Tugler some early touches, and just sort of just run clean offense. But I think establishing the paint is going to be crucial on the offensive end for Houston. On the defensive end, here's what I would do: sell the hell out on 3-point shooters. And
Mhm.
BYU still capable of making shots, contested shots, but if I'm Kelvin Sampson, I'm not even worried about, like, if you're in rotation, sprint and challenge. If they throw an up fake at you, let them get 2 points, because the way this BYU team is shooting the three ball, you'll take the 2 points. And I said also, as it relates to Dem, and I feel like I'm a little hard on him right now, but I would try to make him more of a except for him, I would make him a shooter actually, because once he gets in the paint, he's amazing passing the ball, he's amazing finishing. But I think the rest of the guys, right? Like
Mm.
Richie Saunders gets the ball, Dallin Hall gets the ball, man. Like Trevin Nell gets the ball, sprint and close out as hard as you can. I don't know how often they're going to be in rotation because Houston's so elite defensively and they're going to stick to these BYU guys. But I think just hard closeouts, harder than you've ever done all season. Like, but for both teams, there are going to be aspects where they're going to have their best performances, like in key categories. So I think defensively, some of the hardest closeouts you see for Houston will need to be brought. And then for BYU, I think they need to crash the glass. I will also say BYU, I need to see a touch more from the defensive side,
Mhm.
right? Like Curtis Jones just went on an insane flurry against you and you gave up 50 some odd points at halftime.
Mhm.
And I look, you're good enough to match that, but Iowa State's defense isn't as good as Houston's defense, right? I don't know if you can necessarily expect to put up a record number of threes. Maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think I need a little bit more I'm not asking you to be, uh, you know, an amazing defensive team. I don't think you need to be world beaters on that end of the ball, but you need to be a little bit better.
Yeah, and look, Houston's a team that doesn't want to shoot the three. I actually, analytically, 3-point percentage wise, Houston's the second best 3-point shooting team in the country. But when you look at the attempts, obviously, they don't want to shoot 3-pointers. They're not really getting that many attempts up. So that kind of leans to that. And BYU needs to get stops. Analytically, they're not the best defensive team. There does need to be an emphasis on that end. Um, but on the same token, Houston's offense, they're top 15 analytically. They're not that great from 2-point range, to be honest
Mhm.
with you. Like, it's not that great. They also just get it back, though. That's the thing. They're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. BYU is very good at preventing offensive rebounds. So something's got to give in this game. I mean, I don't want to just keep it simple as offensive rebounding, but I mean, it's a very glaring metrical like point of data here. Like, you look at the turnover thing. BYU turnovers, 204th in the country. Houston forces turnovers on 21, almost 22% of possessions. Like, they are everywhere and they are active. So, you know, they need to take care of the ball. They need to take good shots. And even if they, I think that one game at Hilton was an anomaly. I can't believe they turned the ball over that many times and
Yeah.
won. You can't do that again. If you turn the ball over that many times against Houston, you lose by 20.
There's levels to this, right? Like
Yes,
Iowa State's a very good team. Even without two starters, they pushed BYU to the brink. Houston's different. Right,
different.
like Houston's different. I don't know if we're talking about Iowa State as a national title contender. Like there's levels when I say, some people might still take Iowa State to the Final Four, but I think everyone has Houston in the Final Four, and we're talking about Houston as a potential title team. Now, BYU's getting trendier and trendier by the day to go to the Final Four. Yeah, it's gonna take an all out effort here from BYU, and look, it's going to be a tremendous, tremendous atmosphere and a tremendous game. Both of these teams, by the way, riding insane win streaks.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, one of those is coming to an end, which is kind of crazy to think about.
No, we this is a meeting of two of the hottest teams in the country. And honestly, Houston doesn't get enough credit. They might be the hottest team in the country.
Mhm.
Because Duke is doing it in the ACC. They've lost a couple games in the SEC. Houston has just been handling business in the Big 12, truly. And everyone just talks about the Texas Techs, and rightfully so. Texas Techs, Arizona, BYU, all these other teams. Houston is just going about their business, winning the Big 12 once again. It's a well-oiled machine, and it's different. That's the
It's
thing.
like
Like if
it's
you,
fatigue for Houston, talking
yeah,
about how
it's just
great
what
they are.
it's just what they do, and we can sing their praises all you want. You made a good comparison there. I always use like the Chrysler 300 analogy. Like everyone thinks they got it looks like a Rolls Royce, it looks like a Phantom until an actual Phantom pulls up. Houston's the Phantom in this case. So if you're BYU, this is what you want because you want to get your get back, like you said, and you want to beat the best teams and see if this hot streak is really. This is a litmus test late in the season at this point to see where you're at. And on the token of Houston, you had that sleepy game against Colorado. You didn't even necessarily think you were going to play them. Now you got one of the hotter teams in the country. You got to see what's going to give. It's going to be a great game. Let's get to the prediction portion of this. Ken Palm has this game as a 73-66 victory for Houston in this game. So that is a 7-point spread.
BYU's not only getting 66, man. I'm here to tell you that right now. Look, I'll get to my prediction in just a second. We've talked about the previous matchup, but I totally agree. Throw it completely out. Like I've refined my cooking skills since I was 16, 17, 18 years old when I was just making ramen, right?
Yeah.
We are not the same person as we were. BYU is not the same team whatsoever as they were when they last lost to Houston. And actually, they lost 4 out of 5 during that stretch. I cannot fathom this team if they were to play 5 more games, losing 4 of them. Right? If they were in elimination games, you get what I'm saying. They're a completely different team. Now, how many times have we heard about BYU? This is a team that can beat anyone in the country right now.
Mhm.
This is your shot. Like you have a top tier team against playing you get to play against. This is your shot. So if we're going to be saying that, let's go ahead and do it. And I think I'm going to lean offense here, man. So I'm going to go with BYU winning this game. And I don't feel comfortable, Carter, ignoring what I've seen out of BYU the last few weeks. BYU wins this game 77-73 in overtime because Houston doesn't lose in regulation.
Sure, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm not scared anymore. I'm delivered. I'm not scared anymore. The only thing that does give me an inkling of scaring here is that Houston is a bunch of grown men, and I don't care what anybody says. They're sick of this BYU shit. Like, excuse my language, but they're definitely like, all right, I get it. That three is fun. That's fun. I'm about to bite this great looking Big 12 floor, and you're gonna have to pry this dub from my cold, dead Cougar paws. Like, I'm not letting this game go. With that said, I'm not afraid of the moment. I can't ignore what I've seen from BYU. I can't ignore it. The offense is good. It's not just based on 3-pointers. They take great shots. They get good shots, even if they don't get as great a shots as they usually get. The offense is so good they will still get it even against this great defense. And I think they'll get enough stops. I think they'll rebound the ball, which is going to be key, holding them to one shot. And you know what? Just don't turn the ball over 27 times. I'm not saying you got to have a perfect game, but keep it as low as possible. No live ball turnovers. And yeah, I'm gonna go BYU to win this game. Let me relax before I say something stupid. Nobody even scored like 7. Who's the last team to score 70 against this Houston team?
That's a good
Texas
question.
Tech in February 1st.
I'd take BYU's offense over
He was in
Texas
he
Tech.
was in he was in OT too. Dog, what's their high? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm down a rabbit hole. They haven't given up more than 70 points in regulation this season.
In regulation.
In regulation.
Something's got to give.
Okay,
That's insane.
I'm scared. I really found that fact. And actually, no, I'm not scared. F that
You said
noise.
you
All
weren't
right.
scared.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't have looked at that. That scared me. But it's true though. That's actually a fact. I might have to tweet that. But okay. Anyways, uh, give me BYU 78 to Houston. I think it's gonna be close. Houston 75. Close game.
Regulation.
Regulation. Yep, a regulation up for them. But in any regard, we will have the recap here on the channel for this great game to advance to the Big 12 championship. Uh, Subi and I got you covered here on Super's Media YouTube channel, previews and recaps of every Big 12 tournament game. We will catch y'all on the next video.